Welcome to His and Hers podcast. I'm Zach Bennett alongside my sister Paige, and today we have a wonderful episode discussing a great game on the Amazon Prime debut between the Chargers and the Chiefs. We discuss Justin Herbert's grit, Patrick Mahomes' ability to continue to find ways to win football games, and we look ahead to a great week 2 that we have in store, including the Saints and Buccaneers matchup divisionally, and quite possibly the biggest week for a lot of teams that found themselves starting 0-1, looking to avoid the 0-2 hole, including the San Francisco 49ers playing the Seahawks, the defending Super Bowl champions facing off against the Falcons, the Packers at home against the Bears, and the Titans on the road against the Bills, concluding with the wonderful Vikings and Eagles game with that doubleheader on Monday Night Football. We discuss all these games and more here on this episode of the His and Hers podcast. All right, Paige, what a game the debut of Amazon Prime Football brought us. A great game between two of the quarterbacks that in the same division, we are going to have the pleasure of probably seeing them play 20 or so times over the next 10 years, give or take a few. We're lucky. I think a lot of games will live up to that kind of buildup. What were your takeaways from a game that has come very on brand with the Chargers over the last 10 to 15 years of dominating the game, almost the entirety of the game, and off one play, pick six, losing it and giving it up against Kansas City Chiefs?
Yeah, I mean, tough day for Chargers fans, but I don't know. It's like Justin Herbert's really fun to watch, but it's just funny. We kind of mentioned this last podcast, but it's just this funny thing to watch of like how people always like get bored with good players and they want the newer like good player to like be the one that's champion. And so I love Justin Herbert, but it's just funny to like listen to everyone's reactions about Justin Herbert compared to Patrick Mahomes in that game of like, oh, like Chargers dominating the whole time, like Chiefs did nothing. And I'm like, the Chiefs were in the entire game. There wasn't a point where it was like, oh, this is a blowout. It was a fun game to watch from beginning to end. Obviously, maybe Patrick Mahomes wasn't at his level that he might have been looking how he looked against the Cardinals, but the Chargers are a lot better team than the Cardinals. So obviously exciting game back and forth, but Justin Herbert is just so fun to watch, especially with seeing somebody who you can tell that he's in a lot of pain, but he's still throwing some incredible passes there at the end of the game. But yeah, just kind of a bummer throwing that interception on the one like half-yard line to a rookie being able to run 99 and a half yards for the touchdown. So a pretty crazy play and a big stop by the Chiefs defense.
Yeah, I think it always makes me laugh. We discussed this a little bit last week when we were recapping the games about getting bored with Mahomes. He finished right under 70% completion percentage against the Chargers, 235 yards, 2 touchdowns, 106 rating. And the takeaway was, good to win when the offense was struggling. And I mean, granted, there were a few 3-and-outs the Chargers were able to force, but for the season, he's sitting at 73% completion percentage, almost 600 yards, 7 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, 128 rating. He's gotten off to just a tremendous start. And I think there were a few plays where, the refs called back a couple picks. They said what wasn't a catch. I think the biggest part of this game there was the 2 drives when the Chiefs ended up kicking a field goal, but on 1st and goal, Patrick Mahomes tried to do a quick fade route to one of their tight ends, and Asante Samuel Jr. had the ball in his hand, and if he catches it, he's gone 99 yards for a pick six. Like, easy, no one's there. It's one of those plays where he's just gone. They end up kicking a field goal, tying it at 17-17. The Chargers go down and drive the length of the field, and Everett, one of their tight ends, has this great play to get him inside the 5 and was trying to tap himself out of the game. And Kirk Herbstreit did a great job pointing this out. He's trying to tap himself out. He's gassed. He needs a sub, but they're trying to go no huddle because they feel they have the right defense in Kansas City. They want to take advantage of the matchup they have, but the dude is gassed. And so Justin Herbert tries to throw his way. He fades outside. Everett does. The ball is thrown inside, and that's where you lead up to a pick six. So it was just insane that the philosophy of the coaches want to go fast. Everett not being in the right shape or just exhausted in the moment caused kind of a mental blunder in his part potentially. And there you go. I mean, he was so tired that when he saw the ball get intercepted, he was more worried about his mouth guard on the ground. Like the dude is in front of him and he's like trying to pick up his mouth guard. It just stinks if you're a Chargers fan.
Well, and it's just so cool. I read an article in the Los Angeles Times on Friday about Jalen Watson and just kind of his cool story. He was from Augusta, Georgia, didn't get any offers, ended up going to California, to Ventura, has to leave because he has bad grades, goes back to Augusta, Georgia, working in a Wendy's. And now he was able to make it back to school, get drafted. But it's just so cool to see kind of a story of a guy who was working fast food, and now he's getting picks in a playoff. Oh my goodness, my brain. Now he's getting pick sixes in a Thursday night football game. Like, it was just so cool. Kind of a cool story from rags to riches there.
Yeah, no, and I mean it was a big time environment football game. Thursday night football, a big divisional matchup in the division. We expect to be a slugfest from beginning to end. When the Chiefs take the first notch in securing the division, at least early on, to get some momentum moving forward. And obviously one of the bigger stories pulling from that game was Justin Herbert and the rib cartilage. It's been kind of stated that it'll be day to day. Obviously, they get 3 extra days to rest until their week 3 matchup. But rib injury for a quarterback, not the most ideal thing. It all just comes down to how he can manage his pain. But if you're a Charger fan, you just kind of stinks that promising season. You just hope that this is an injury that'll linger and make him miss for a couple weeks. Because as mentioned, this division isn't a division that you could lose a couple games and stay in pace with.
Well, no, and it's just so frustrating. Like, they had an opportunity to win in Arrowhead, which is just insane for them in a divisional matchup. And so just kind of a bummer for the Chargers that they weren't able to seal that. But obviously just fun to watch. I just love that game. It was so much fun. It was exactly what I wanted that game to be.
Yeah, and what a booth. Al Michaels and Kirk Street. I mean, this is kind of a side note, but the broadcast booth that we have in the NFL now are just elite. Monday Night Football with Troy Aikman and Joe Buck. Even the Fox crew, Kevin Burkhardt and Greg Olson, they did the Vikings game, the Fox #1 group. I think they're fantastic. It's all across the board, just got good color and play-by-play. So always a joy to watch it. But, they make the game feel big. The broadcast is beautiful, went really smooth. So hopefully there's big talks about them getting the entire rights to NFL Sunday Ticket going into next year. With that kind of broadcast, I wouldn't be too mad. I'll be honest with you. So
yeah, cross your fingers.
Obviously just early week 2 game. We got tons of games this weekend. Obviously week 2, no one has buys quite yet. What's the game out of week 2 that you're kind of looking forward to the most?
I'm looking forward to the most. I think it's gonna be fun to watch the Bears-Packers game on Sunday Night Football, just because I don't know. I think ever since Aaron Rodgers shouted at Soldier Field that he owned the team, it's just like those are always fun games. So just kind of interested to see the Bears coming off a win week 1, Packers obviously coming off a loss. I think that could potentially be a fun divisional game. The other game that I'm just really looking forward to is the Rams-Falcons, and not because I think it's necessarily going to be like an insanely good game, but just really interested to see how the Rams play. Obviously, they were in the NFL debut on Thursday Night Football, and we didn't see the best Rams football. And so just kind of interested to see them play a team that they should beat pretty easily, and just kind of see what kind of pace and momentum that the Rams can build in that game, what they're looking like from an offensive and defensive perspective.
Yeah, I think both of those games present pretty interesting. Obviously for the Packers, we talked about this stat in the recap. earlier this week. But teams that start 0-2, and now granted, this is when there were 6 playoff teams, but if you went 0-2, you had a 14% chance to make the playoffs. So very difficult to, it seems kind of like a small blip in the season when you are playing 16, 17 games, but it's still going to be a little difficult to crawl yourself out of the hole. The Packers open up as 10-point favorites against the Bears at home, which is pretty interesting considering how bad I thought the Packers looked. But I think they are referencing off how they looked last year, week 1.
And nobody believes in the Bears.
Yeah, no one really believes in the Bears. A monsoon is the only thing that people believe that they have a chance. I'll tell you the one game on the
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. I was just going to say the other game that I failed to mention was the Dolphins Ravens right in the morning slot. I'm really excited about that game. I just think it's going to be a really good game between seeing Lamar Jackson and Tua play against each other.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. I was going to say the team that faced the Dolphins in week 1, the Patriots at Pittsburgh, will be a pretty interesting one. Obviously, the Pittsburgh Steelers were able to get that overtime win on the last second field goal, but a lot of people viewed it as they should feel pretty crappy about that win because they got 5 turnovers and only scored 16 offensive points.
Not to mention they lost TJ Watt. So
yeah,
Steelers.
Thankfully not for the entire season, but over the next 6 weeks probably will be assuredly be out. And unless they stack some wins, he might come back when it's already a little late for him. The Patriots open in Pittsburgh as -1 favorites. The over-under set at 43.5. So Pittsburgh is +115 underdog at home. You don't see that a ton. I don't think the Patriots looked very good, so it's very interesting to me that they're viewed as the favorite in this game. I think, honestly, if the Jets weren't in the division, they'd be in strong contention if it's last in their division. So to kind of pair that with the game that you mentioned between the Ravens and the Dolphins, it'll be very interesting to see if the Dolphins were playing a very bad Patriot team, or if McDaniels has his team trending in the right direction. It'll all come down to the strength of Tua's arm and if he's able to make the throws late in game that you need to make. Because last week they had from beginning to end, there wasn't ever a stressful time in that whole 40 or 60 minutes that he had to take. I mean, that 4th down throw was really nice to Jalen Waddle, but there was never really tight window throws that he had to continue to make to win a football game. I think that's where really, when it comes down to it, the separation in the elite quarterbacks happens. I think quarterbacks in the NFL obviously amazingly talented and can make throws when it's comfortable for them, and it can win you games if the defense plays well enough. The elite quarterbacks take a next step when it's late in the game, tight moments, in the 3rd, 4th quarter, and they got to lead very contested drives down the field. And I just don't know if Tua has that in him. I just don't see really any sign that he can do that.
Yeah, I think that's why I'm excited for that game, is I think that Lamar Jackson, obviously such an incredible presence and a great quarterback, and we know that he's probably going to put up some big points. And so just curious to see if Tua is able to answer those and how he looks going head-to-head against that type of offense.
Yep, and it's in Baltimore. The Ravens are -3.5 point favorites at home. Over under set at 46.
Any other games that you're really looking forward to?
Obviously, I think anytime you get Tom Brady playing at this point in his career, you got to watch. I think it's a pretty interesting game where Dennis Allen has owned Tom Brady since he signed with the Buccaneers. So I like the Saints and Buccaneers matchup. It's in New Orleans, and the Buccaneers opened as 4-point favorites. Pretty interesting considering that the last time they played, Dennis Allen was actually the acting head coach because Sean Payton had COVID and he shut Tom Brady out completely. So I don't know. I kind of like the Saints in that game personally. I think I'm going that direction because it's going to be the home opener for him, so it's going to be plenty rowdy. And I think Jameis Winston kind of knocked the rust off a little bit. Michael Thomas got woke up at the end of the game with 2 touchdowns against the Falcons. So I don't know. I'm pretty interested to see that one early window game. Might be some fireworks early.
Well, yeah, and it's like I think also just comparing the two teams how they looked last week, like the Bucs did not look good last week, and like luckily to their credit. Like the Cowboys were just so bad that I think a lot of people didn't really point out the fact that the Buccaneers just didn't look that great. They played a horrible Cowboys team that looked like they didn't even know how to play football. And so, and with Godwin still out and different injuries still happening on the Bucs, I could totally see the Saints pulling out a win over them and keeping that streak alive.
Did you know that every wide receiver was listed on the injury report for the Buccaneers this week? All 6 of them. All were on the injury report.
Got issues over there.
That is. And Tom Brady looks like he's lost 80 pounds since beginning of training camp. His face is looking very slim. Kind of get worried for the guy. Ain't going to lie.
No, I don't think it's a worry. I think that 11-day break, I think he was just like under the knife at some plastic surgery clinic in Tampa Bay.
I don't know. I think also maybe the divorce stress, like just the stress of divorce. How about Baker Mayfield?
Giselle tweeted, "Go at Tom Brady."
Yeah, why would you add him?
Yeah, why you at your own? You don't see people at their husbands very often, but
you see them at their co-parent. Baker Mayfield going to New York should be an interesting one. Obviously, the Carolina got off to a really slow start. The Browns defense is pretty good. I'd be very interested to see. Obviously, Brian Daboll has been the talk of town in New York, going for 2 points at the end of the game against Tennessee, and trusting Saquon Barkley. I didn't catch a lot of that game. I watched a little bit of the end just to see how they made their comeback, and essentially it was, let's take the ball out of Daniel Jones's hand and give it to Saquon as he was eating. And he was able to get him to the win. So it'd be interesting to see Carolina coming into town. Obviously, if New York starts off 2-0, that place might explode. It was interesting over the last 5 years. No one had lost more football games than the Giants. I thought that was crazy considering the Lions and Browns exist. Like, those will always be my default. Obviously, the Browns haven't been as bad the last several years, but so it's been crazy for such a proud franchise to be so terrible. So if they start out 2-0, I mean, they might put him in the Hall of Fame already. Like, they're ready to anoint Brian Daboll into the crowd.
Just bringing some shred of hope and light that they haven't had for a hot minute over there.
A very, very long time.
New York football has been broken.
So I don't know who you have in that one, but then the Jets are in Cleveland. So how do you feel about both New York teams?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the Giants have a chance. I think the Jets are going to be 0-2.
Probably pretty safe. Joe Flacco looks like a statue. Do you know he threw almost 60 times in the game against the Ravens?
I know. That dude's probably been so sore all week long. He's practice.
Man, his shoulder probably icy hot bandages all the way on the plane ride over to Cleveland. Crazy as they're looking at Deshaun Watson's suspension starting out 2-0. We're getting that gutsy week 1 win. Browns are looking at themselves like, hey, we could put ourselves in position to be just in that playoff hunt, get an elite quarterback back, and kind of set themselves up.
Yeah, maybe we do the ethical thing and we just have Jacoby Brissett finish out the year and we don't talk about Deshaun Watson anymore.
I kind of want that 11-0. Obviously Brissett's 11-0 going into week 12. They wouldn't bench him.
So, yeah, why would you do that? Let's get over to the disgusting guy. Enough of that. Other game I'm interested in, Geno Smith against Trey Lance.
Yeah, this will be an interesting one. Obviously, panic meter's not really hit for the Niners yet because everyone's just like, it was the monsoon. It was the monsoon. It was the monsoon. The weather. So, yes, but I mean, if they lose at home, they are 7.5-point favorites against the Seattle Seahawks. If they lose at home against the Seahawks, I think you'd see Jimmy Garoppolo trotting out there week 3. I mean, I don't think Kyle Shanahan really has the patience right now with the type of roster he has there.
You think so? You think he'd pull the trigger that fast?
It just depends on why. I think they're going to win, and I think they're going to win real easily because I think the combination of the Broncos' newness. I mean, the Broncos really dominated that game against the Seahawks. They had 2 fumbles inside the 5-yard line and another trip inside the red zone that they didn't convert on early in the game. So you're talking of potential of 21 points that they lost inside, and they had 4 red zone trips, only scored 3 points. So really, you're talking 25 points that were just vanished, right? and then a dumb decision to kick a 60-40. So really, really the Broncos dominated that game. So if the San Francisco 49ers struggle and Trey Lance is looking like he's overwhelmed and ghosted and they potentially lose, I think so. Obviously, he goes out and scores 35 points, but Geno Smith scores 40. You're just like, okay. So it is always, it depends how they lose. But I don't think that's likely. I think if you tell me that the San Francisco 49ers lose, I guarantee you it would be a Trey Lance struggle and the Seahawks kind of squeak by in a gritty win type of situation.
Yeah, I'm also excited to see good old Joe Burrow go against the Cowboys. I think that I just want to see Joe Burrow have a good game, not give up 5 interceptions would be good.
Yeah, it's pretty, sad that Dak Prescott's already hurt because that would be kind of a fun game. But I think that the Bengals will go in and probably beat them down personally. Although the Cowboys defense obviously played pretty well against the Buccaneers. So there is hope that they
Did
can
they play well or did the Bucs offense just suck?
I don't know because they didn't move the ball a lot, but they just kept forcing them into field goals. 19's a weird score. They were 4 for 5 for field goals. So I think you got to get a little credit. Micah Parsons a beast. So there's that. You don't want to see this line. You talked about the Rams. The Rams are 13.5-point favorites against the Falcons. That was kind of interesting. What do you think about your Kyler Murray, your boy, the Cardinals in Las Vegas playing the Raiders? Raiders are -2.5. Obviously, two teams that started 0-1. So this is a big game. We talked a lot about not starting 0-2. So you were pretty high on the Cardinals. You thought that they would finish second in the division in the NFC West. Where would you put your panic level if the Cardinals lose this game?
I think the Cardinals are gonna lose this game. I
do?
have more faith in the Raiders than I do the Cardinals, and I have the Raiders going farther than the Cardinals, so kinda need the Raiders to pull me out for my predictions to really look good. So yeah, I just think,
true.
like,
You had
at
the Chiefs
home
third. I'll never let you forget that.
I think at home, I think the Raiders will pull this out. I think we're gonna see obviously, I don't know. I just think that the Raiders are a good team, and I think that I trust the Raiders team more. I like Kyler Murray, and that's pretty much all I like about the Cardinals.
What about that quote by Cliff Kingsbury that said that we just need to practice with more effort and detail? Like, you're a coach of the team. How do you let that not be the case going into week 1? Again, not a fan.
Not a fan of the old Clifford.
Or Clifford. The Raiders -2.5-point favorites. I think the connection, with Devontae Adams, he's just going to continue to feed him the ball, and it'll continue to pay off for him. Obviously, Chandler Jones makes his return against the Arizona Cardinals, playing for the Raiders. I agree with you. I do think the Raiders will probably get this win as well. Looking at kind of let's look forward to the Monday Night Football games. The Tennessee Titans, we have a doubleheader on Monday Night Football. Tennessee Titans at Buffalo Bills, Minnesota Vikings at the Philadelphia Eagles. What are your initial thoughts on those two games?
I think this is gonna be one of those. I think that the Bills came out so hot that I feel like I could see this game being one of those like closer ones where you're expecting them to just blow out the other team, but it ends up being close. And I think the Bills will win. But I think that this will be one of those games where it's a little bit closer than anybody expects. So that's my take on the Bills. What are the betting odds right now for that game?
The Bills are 7.5-point favorites at home. Over unders 52. Oh boy, that is crazy. 7.5 for Vrabel led. And I think that's kind of the thing is Vrabel's a great coach.
Yeah.
So it's hard for me to imagine. Like you said, I think to me this is a real test on where I'm going to put the Bills in terms of the kind of run they're about to put together. If Josh Allen goes out here on Monday Night Football and throttles the Titans, like a good, well-coached team, but throttles them and they have nothing they can do, I'm really going to start to think they're about to put together like a Carolina Panther 15-1 season, one of those special seasons that you think about for a long time and that are memorable. But I think it's going to fall more in line with a very hard fought like game. I would believe that in a home opener the Bills would take it. So 7.5 points is a lot to me for a team like the Titans that you can think that they're not Super Bowl contenders, but they were the number 1 seed last year. They have the same coach and basically the same team. Why would they fall off and be a 7.5 point favorite or underdog? That's crazy to me.
Just because people love the Bills so much. Everyone's right.
They love the Bills. People love the Bills, which I get.
How can you not?
I get. The Vikings in Philadelphia minus 2.5 point favorites are the Eagles over under 48. Obviously, both teams had an impressive week 1 win. Well, I say impressive for the Eagles, but it is just the Lions.
And they only won by 3. So how?
Yeah, but everyone keeps saying impressive, and I think it's because of how well Jalen Hurts played. Made some really good decisions, ran the ball. A.J. Brown had a very strong debut, the most receiving yards in the debut as a Philadelphia Eagle. So set a franchise record already. What do you make of this game, and how do you think it's going to shake out?
Yeah, well, I mean, I mentioned this on the Vikings preview pod, but the Eagles are 3 for 13 in their last 16 week 2 performances. So I'm taking that stat and I'm riding with it, and the Vikings are winning.
That is a crazy stat. There's trends that just like make no sense, and that's got to be one of them. That is one of the wildest things I've ever heard. Because I mean, 16 years of it is a pretty consistent thing.
Yeah. It's not Eagles don't fly. Week 2.
Nope, they're nesting. It'll be a good environment. I think there's a lot of week 2 kind of tests for teams to kind of judge how that week 1 performance stand up, whether good or bad, like an embarrassing performance like the Broncos. They play at home against the Texans this week. If they don't throttle the Texans, it tells you maybe this team really isn't that good. And this is how I feel about the Vikings. Obviously, a lot can be said about where the Packers were week 1 mentality wise, how new everything was. If they go into Philadelphia and beat a team that many think are going to win the NFC East, I think then you'll start to see some traction to how people view the Vikings. And I think it's a good opportunity for Kevin O'Connell to prove his coaching chops, being in a hostile environment. And if he's as crisp as he was in play calling, like he was at home against the Packers, then I think you'll see, okay, this guy, he's kind of got things under control, and he was meant for this type of moment in this position. So it'll be very interesting to see how that one plays out. Any last closing thoughts before we give our full slate of predictions in 60 seconds?
No, let's do our 60-second slots.
All right, give me on a timer. You ready to rock?
Yeah, you went first last time, so I'm going first this week.
All righty, and we'll mark which ones are different. Okay, on your mark, get set, go.
Wait 1 sec.
Oh boy, started strong.
Okay. Hot take. I am taking the Chiefs in the Chiefs-Chargers matchup.
Nice.
Dolphins Ravens. I'm going with the Dolphins. Jets Browns. I'm taking the Browns. I'm going to take the Commanders over the Lions. The Colts over the Jags. The Saints over the Buccaneers. Taking the Panthers over the Giants. The Patriots over the Steelers, the Rams over the Falcons. We've got 49ers beating the Seahawks, Bengals beating the Cowboys, Broncos beating the Texans, Raiders beating the Cardinals, Packers beating the Bears, Bills beating the Titans, and Vikings beating the Eagles.
Beautiful, beautiful. The only game we didn't talk about in that slate, I think, were the Colts Jaguars and the Commanders Lions. I wonder why. I hope, the Lions started with 2 home games in a row. Really hope they can at least win one of them, or else, again, their season's kind of treading in the wrong direction. And then the Colts, they play terribly in Jacksonville. So kind of a random thought. All right, you ready?
Yeah, ready, set, go.
All right, Patriots are going to beat the Steelers. No, I'm going to take that back. I think the Steelers start 2-0. They're going to beat the Patriots. I don't think the Patriots are any good. I think the Panthers are going to beat the Giants. The Browns are going to beat the Jets. The Jaguars are going to beat the Colts. The Ravens are going to beat the Dolphins. The Saints are going to beat the Bucks. The Lions are going to beat the Commanders. 49ers are going to beat the Seahawks. Rams will beat the Falcons. Raiders will beat the Cardinals. The Broncos will beat the Texans. And the Bengals will beat the Cowboys. Packers will beat the Bears. Bills will beat the Titans. And Vikings will beat the Eagles. Those will be my picks.
Not too disagreed this week.
No, kind of in line. Which one did we disagree on one?
Lions and Commanders.
I guess that's more of hope just because I fell in love with Man Campbell in Hard Knocks. So.
I gave them hope last week and they dashed my dream. So this is probably the week that they'll win.
But they're playing Carson Wentz this week. So
yeah, you never know. Carson Wentz might go off.
And then go down and then go off.
Come back off again.
You just hope that he goes off and goes on, off and on. You just hope that he ends on an off. No, exactly. on an on. It's hard, because if you tell me, because going off is obviously great. What does going on mean? Or is that like what's going on?
He needs 2 interceptions.
So going off is good. What's going on is
in 3 minutes.
Yeah, back to back, one to a rookie. Yeah, he's an interesting guy. All right, well that does it. I guess let's start a new tradition. We could start in week 2. What is your bold take from one of these games? It doesn't mean it have to be what your certified pick, but what would be the most shocking revelation out of the games? If you have one, let me know. Mine is because I picked the Saints to beat the Buccaneers. I think they hold the Buccaneers. My hot take is kind of based off what they did last year, but they hold the Buccaneers to 10 points or less this week in New Orleans. And Jameis Winston throws for 4 touchdowns.
Oh, that is a
yeah. So it was kind of a warm, but they already did it, so it's not that great. So I had to add a little hot spiciness to it.
Okay, my hot take: Christian McCaffrey is going to run for 150 yards.
Ooh, okay. I like that.
We're going to see the return of old CM.
CMC, run CMC. All righty. Well, week 2 is almost upon us. I'm excited for this week of football. Excited for any week of football, but the season's going to start. It's always weird. They start stacking up really fast. 1 and 2 take forever to get here, and all of a sudden it's week 10. And I'm like, wow.
Where did the time go?
Where did the time go? I'm almost wearing a Santa hat. So it happens fast. Any closing thoughts before we wrap this one up, Paige?
No, we just need to talk about what whoever loses picks overall at the end of the season, what the punishment will be.
All right, let's I haven't brainstormed about that. I'll be honest. I will do so in our recap episode. Let's give out a punishment. I'll text you a few ideas.
There we go.
Okay. All righty. Thanks for everyone tuning in. Everyone enjoy the week 2 slate. We'll be back Monday to discuss what we thought.